Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Leadership Ready Room Chats. I am Brandon Jenks Jenkins, and I'm here with my co-founder of Leadership Ready Room and co-host, Tom Brother Murray. And this week's topic that's been kind of coming up for us, resonating with us, is it's a pretty stressful time of year. And no doubt there are a lot of leaders out there who are feeling the stress of maybe a little bit heavier this time of year, whether it's because you had some, end of year goals you didn't hit, or you've got some intentions you set for 2026, and maybe you're feeling behind already. You're wondering how the heck it's almost the end of January already. Um, or maybe something else. Maybe you got something else that's kind of stressing you out this time of year. And so what's coming up for us really is, yeah, we all feel that. And then how does that stress show up for you and affect maybe decision making, spill over into the team? When they notice that stress, like how does that affect them? So yeah, that's what's coming up for us right now. And Tom, what like when you notice the stress coming up, like what do you see, or how does that affect decision making and your team?
Well, I'll start, Jenks, by sharing that this is something that I'm historically pretty bad at. Uh, and I, until relatively recently, wasn't even able to pick up the cues myself. I was that blind to it. And fortunately, I've got some awesome mentors in my life who've helped me see it. And I'm going to guess I'm probably not alone, that there's maybe other leaders out there that don't realize it. Now that I see it a little more clearly, it shows up everywhere. It shows up in the way I speak with my team. It shows up in the way especially speak with my family. And for me, I wind up with a shorter fuse, less patience, less ability to meet people where they are. And I wind up being very reactionary in conversations. And I think as I've reflected on it, the mechanism, the way that my brain is processing it, I wind up feeling behind. And so I try to squeeze every second, every millisecond out of the day in order to hopefully feel less behind and do, I'll say do more. And so the way that that manifests, though, whether it's trying to help one of my kids with homework or talk to one of my teammates, I don't want fluff. We just got to get to the facts and execute, 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 right? And that results in strained conversations, strained relationships. And I know I'm not my best self. And again, I've been pretty poor at recognizing this. And I'm thankful that I'm starting to see it a little more clearly now. So that's the maybe the warning signs for me. And man, but before we talk about maybe how to prevent it, how to deal with it, what about you? How does it show up for you?
Yeah, what's coming up for me right now is um what I notice in myself whenever I'm presented with a really stressful situation. Maybe it's a stressful conversation, maybe, you know something, the boss came in to the office or called me on the phone, probably more likely, and just came down with this big change in our plans, right? So something out of the ordinary, something different from what we planned, a little bit of that and uncertainty put together with this underlying belief that, oh, this is really important, we need to tackle this, right? That's when I really notice. Whereas usually with the team, myself, I'm kind of patient, pretty patient person. I have no problem kind of just pausing, sitting back and trying to explore maybe some different options. When I notice I'm really stressed out about something, it's like my brain clogs up. Um, Maybe like tunnel vision, like I cannot I'm not like expansive and willing to listen to other people. Instead, I have like tunnel vision and it's like I hone in on the one thing that I think maybe might help alleviate some of the stress or take back a little control because it's so uncertain and I feel like I don't have any. And I notice myself wanting to just focus on that. And it's hard for me to hear anyone else's perspective, or it's hard for me to even brainstorm potential other approaches. Um, and so but I notice that happening. I notice that tunnel vision. And then how that affects, how that spills over is kind of like what I just said. Um, Whereas a teammate may have before been able to come to me with some other thing they were working on, if I have just been exposed maybe to this stress, this new thing, they come in to talk to me, it's a different conversation. It's a different Jenks. And when they're getting a different Jenks, when they're getting a different version of the leader, the behavior's different. I think that absolutely affects just the overall kind of the climate, the feel around the office that day, the feel of the Zoom call that day. Hey, man, they're not acting the way that they normally do. Something's bothering them. And then maybe that causes them to wonder, ooh, is this the right time to bring up this other piece of important information that I was going to bring up? Ooh, maybe we sit on this for an extra day because, they start behaving and reacting to my stress levels, in versus them just kind of doing what they need to do for the good of themselves, for the good of the team. Instead, they're trying to like manage my stress. And so then there's the uncertain situation that caused the stress. And now the team, now there's uncertainty that the leader that I'm creating just in the way that I'm behaving and reacting to that stress.
I mean, I love the way you tied that together. What you're describing to me is predictability or lack thereof, right? That's what I'm hearing as you say that. And so when the leader's not predictable, you're right. The team, the family, the other person in the equation winds up trying to manage that person's stress, or maybe doesn't bring something up that was important, right? Well, Jenks is a little bit stressed today. I did have to tell him this important thing, but maybe I won't. Right? So and maybe it was really important. Maybe your teammate ordinarily would have brought it to you and it would have been something that caught your attention and requires action. But if they're kind of not interested in engaging you today, maybe they sit on this important thing, right? So the second and third order effects are potentially quite large. And that's not a place any leader wants to be, right? Whether it's at home or at work, that's not good. So why though do you think we do this? Why do you think that as leaders we don't spend more time addressing this?
It's hard. It's uncomfortable. Um, just learning to recognize how it even shows up in your body, in your action, not in your actions, in your body. Like, where do you feel it? When you're getting stressed, do you feel that? Does your brain get all foggy, cloudy? Do you have tunnel vision like I described? That happens for me, but that might not happen for you, right? Like that might not happen for other leaders. Maybe they feel a weight on their shoulders or a weight in their chest, constriction, right? You're in a conversation. Man, I know that you've been there. Like if you're listening to this, I know you've been there in a conversation that all of a sudden things weren't going the way you thought. Things were a little uncomfortable. It's different. It felt different. Where did you feel it? Right. That's tough. That's really hard. And then I think the other thing is, man, I've been reflecting on this a lot, brother, the uncertainty and what it is that we're afraid of when things are uncertain. What it is that we're afraid of. High performers, high achievers, we got into these leadership positions most likely because we were the experts at something and we were really good at problem solving, really good at what we did. People came to us for the answers. People came to us to lead certain projects or whatever it may be. And now we find ourselves in this position and all of a sudden we're faced with things every single day that are a little bit more uncertain, we don't quite know how to tackle them. And I think that leads to stress when we are unsure of ourselves. Like when we're unsure that we can even handle that, when that belief creeps in that, oh, maybe I'm not the right person for the job. They got it wrong. maybe I'm not supposed to be here because man, there's a bunch of stuff right now that I don't know what to do. And that's scary, dude. I've felt scared before, like when something like that happened to me and it's the first time and you're like, this is the first time in my career that I have no idea. And I'm the leader. I am the one who is responsible and accountable for this. And so I think that for me, what comes up when I reflect on that is like the confidence I have in myself. Do I see myself clearly as a leader, as who I am, values, passions, my innate skills? What's my purpose here? What's my purpose, unique purpose on this team? Like, why did they hire me? Why am I here? And if you don't see yourself clearly in those roles, if you don't kind of have an idea about those things, then when other outside things become uncertain, you kind of doubt whether or not you have what it takes. And then if you're doubting, if man, I don't know if I have what it takes, it it's that for me, that tunnel vision, then it prevents me from even looking around my team and saying, do they have what it takes? Like, I don't have what we need. How can I tap into the team because they probably do? And if the immediate team doesn't, how can we go to peers in industry, other businesses where we may know somebody in a similar position? Heck, if our organization's large enough, another department, a peer in another department, when you aren't confident that you have the resources you need internally, it's hard to then even see that, hey, externally, what resources do we have? Um, that's been really coming up for me, man, a lot. I don't know if any of that resonates with you, Tom.
Oh, so much of it does. I think one of the things, and I don't know if I heard you say it in this exact phrasing, one of the reasons I think that sometimes I can spiral a little bit in a setting like this where stress starts to take over is a feeling of loss of control where, hey, I'm in charge. This is my responsibility. This is my risk, right? Whatever phrasing you're using. And when things start to slip a little bit, sometimes I think I will grasp at other things and try to control something else more than I probably would have in a calm setting, more than I would have in a normal on a normal day, which then winds up adding more stress because I'm taking on more and I'm trying to, on I think a very subconscious level, trying to control everything in order to get the result that I think I can achieve or we can achieve. And so I think, you may have used different phrasing. There's probably a ton of overlap there, but control comes up for me a lot. And I don't know that I saw it very clearly. As with some of my earlier comments, I probably didn't see it as clearly uh, for the last years or decades, and I see it now. And it's almost like a comforting thing, right? Oh, I'm going to control that. That'll make me feel better. But it doesn't, right? That never works. Uh, this is just so contagious. The calm is contagious. The stress is contagious. Any leader out there that thinks that their emotions aren't on display is fooling themselves. Now, many leaders can be stressed and still communicate calmly. Absolutely. However, your team knows, and that's something that I have been aware of for a long time. Um, when I was leading an aviation squadron in the Navy, I had a very young sailor, somebody on the team, relatively junior person, stop me one day in the hallway, and she goes, "Is everything okay?" Kind of an odd question from a super junior person. She showed a ton of emotional intelligence and assertiveness by stopping me and asking me. And I quickly came up with some kind of, yeah, everything's great. Why? Uh, or everything's great. Why do you ask? Or thanks for asking. And she goes, normally you walk around here with a big smile on your face, and today you don't have one. Something's up. Uh, and man, I was so thankful, right, that she'd said something. And it really drove home the point that I may think I'm walking around hiding my stress, hiding my concern. I'm not. It's on full display, and it's super contagious. So what do we do about it though? How do we best process the stress? How do we best communicate with our team when we are stressed? You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, dude. I was just thinking to myself, yes, like and when we notice that, when we it's brought to our attention, either we notice it or we don't. We're going about our day. We're doing what we think we need to do. We're managing emotions, right? We're keeping things regulated. We think, and then it's pointed out to us from somebody else, right? So then my next thought was, yeah, so then now that you recognize and realize it, what's the next step? And so I won't sidestep your question, Tom, but I was just really curious about kind of what was the next step there once it was pointed out and you saw it, saw what was going on. But yeah, let me pause there and let you answer that if you want to.
Candidly, I don't remember. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so I won't make something up just for entertainment value. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember reflecting on it, and I was thankful for that awareness that, oh wow, I am not the stoic that I think I am. I am not I'm not hiding anything. So if anything happened, it was giving me that very keen awareness, or that very making me aware of that reality. Um, I don't know what I did next.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's okay, dude. You I've got a million examples where I probably, if you brought it up, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you what I did next. But what's coming up for me right now is it's this. There has to be, I think, to be effective in handling the stress that is just never. First, it's like realizing it's never going to go away. There's always going to be some element of a new thing that wasn't in the plan that now we have to deal with, right? Something uncertain. We don't have all the information. We talked about that last week. And that's just going to like be your reality while whenever you're in a position of leadership. Like that's just your reality. And so if knowing that, it's like, okay, how do I get better at recognizing how I'm going to react in these certain situations? And then once I know, okay, how am I reacting? How am I going to react? I see it. What can we do? Right? What actions can we take? I'll throw one out there. It's, if I recognize myself in a situation that we've described here, I know I'm getting stressed. I know that all of a sudden I'm not going to be expansive, collaborative, seeking perspectives and wanting to hear all the sides, that I know I'm just going to go tunnel vision and want to exert some control where I don't have any. For me, one thing that I can do is close the door. If you're in an office setting and teammates are around you, close the door. If you're in a home, excuse me, a home office, close the door. I'm looked over here at my door because it's actually open today while we're recording this, and so normally I close the door. Right. What that does is it actually provides a physical barrier, and it's almost like here you can like almost put all the stress out there, close the door, take a minute, take a minute for me. Right. Even if it's just I'm not even thinking through all the possible solutions. I might just be like, I need 5 minutes to myself just to sit here in silence and process it. That helps me. That's one thing. How about you, Tom?
What I'm working on today, and I again, this is somewhat new. I try to name it, and I try to name it out loud, whether that's to my wife, to you, to the other folks in Green Squad. I try to name it, and I try to trace it back, because the thing that typically sets me off, the thing that pushes me over the top, the last straw, right? Whatever phrase you want to use, is very rarely tied to the actual root cause. And so, you're talking about taking a minute, shutting the door, kind of maybe cutting off some stimuli. In a similar vein, I like to try to sift through the stressors and work back to what is the root cause, because it's probably not a missed deadline. It's probably not a low quality work product that somebody turned into you. It's probably not a client conversation. There's probably something deeper uh, that's actually causing the stress. And if we just attack the symptoms, it's not going to go away. And I've been doing that. I've been so guilty of that. I've been attacking the symptoms and not the root cause. And so, how do you do it? I don't know. I need to say it out loud. I need to name it, and I need to probably have a back and forth with somebody where they push me on it. Is that really what's bothering you, or is it something else? And that for me is how I've started to have some what I feel are breakthroughs. I've got a long way to go, but I've started to have some better awareness, and now I can actually address the root cause. And now hopefully I can have fewer days where I feel like that and where I make my team behave differently because they're reacting to my stress. And the same goes at home, right? And so that's my current approach, Jenks. Naming it.
I love that, dude. I love it. Naming it, it puts it out there. It says, "Hey, this is real. I see you." Doesn't mean I'm going to stop. Doesn't mean I'm not going to look for an approach. However, I can see you, and now we can like, oh, what can we do with this? Like you said.
Yeah, and what what I have and it sounds so you quickly almost in some cases laugh at the absurdity. No, I'm not that stressed because of that thing that seemingly set me off, right? But it takes work. It's hard. It's probably easier to just be mad at the silly email as opposed to doing the reflection. So I'm trying to put in the work.
Yeah.
Uh, what about so you talked about slowing down, finding quiet time, reflecting. We talked about naming it. What else can we be doing? What are some other tools that leaders have to, even if not necessarily solve the stress, prevent it from impacting the team?
Well, I think there's a number of things that you can do to try to stay left of these situations. One is take care of yourself. Um, I'm certainly no fitness guru or expert. However, I have experienced myself firsthand the connection between being healthy and active, what I consider healthy, active, moving my body, working out, training, and having the ability to recognize emotions and pause between these stressful events and then my response to them. I've seen direct correlation in my own life from being active, taking care of my body that way, and being able to handle these situations. So I think that is something that leaders can do to get left of this. I'll tell you what came up for me then next, Tom, as you were kind of talking was, yeah, okay, I think we're establishing that it's important for the leader to recognize this in themselves and figure out what they need to do to kind of pause and regain maybe that, get rid of the tunnel vision or lift a little of the weight off or just open themselves back up so that they can engage the team. Um, Right. And so for me, what's coming up is like, what's next? What the leader does that they'd recognize, they take care of themselves. You still have whatever this stressor is, whatever this uncertain event is, this thing that the team needs to approach, get after. Okay. So once you start with yourself, but then what? How do we then engage the team?
I think predictability is a crucial part of this. That for me means things like routines, whether it's a team meeting on a certain day of the week or at a certain frequency. So I think routines help. Processes, especially if it's the nitnoid things that are seemingly, it's the closest alligator stuff, maybe, right? Where we know there's a root cause, we haven't really solved it yet, but the closest alligator stuff is setting you off. Um, I think having some processes and routines within the organization can help. All right, this closest alligator feels real big, but rather than lose my mind over it, hey, let's figure out how to address these things and reduce their incidence through process, through collaboration. I also think boundary setting is huge, and that means a lot of different things in any setting. What I'm referring to now is how I allow some of these other things in, how I allow myself to maybe receive it or not, has a big impact. And I think it's very easy to react to the many stressors that you as a leader are faced with every day. You've got people asking you questions, asking for decisions, asking for guidance. And I think understanding what is truly a now thing and what can wait is important. And I think of solving that with this mix of boundaries and routines, boundaries and processes. If you allow all those small stressors to attack you constantly, then they will. And if you have some good boundaries where you maybe say, no, that's not an emergency. We'll deal with it tomorrow. That's not urgent. Let's go get some more information. Something simple like that. That's a boundary that you're establishing. And I think that over time that can result in less stress for the leader and allow the leader to maybe do more leader things, right? Like get at the root cause, the big underlying issue, and and then, as you said, get left of it all and probably reduce your overall stress level. I'll flip it back to you.
Tom, as soon as you started talking about boundaries, I just immediately started thinking of simple things like checking your email at 10, 11 o'clock, right before you're laying down in bed, you grab your phone and you check your work email. Boom. You got an email in there that tells you all of a sudden there's this urgent problem you have to deal with, and you are literally just getting ready to go to sleep. Something as simple as that kind of a boundary where it's like, nope, I don't check my work email after X o'clock to give myself time to wind down, process whatever I need to process so that I can get good sleep. Again, getting left of this so I can get good sleep and wake up refreshed and ready to tackle things. Something as simple as that. Something even not having do not disturb on. And then you get a text, right? You're like, all right, I'm not going to check my email. I wear my Apple Watch to sleep. I put do not disturb on, but I wear my Apple Watch to sleep for the sleep, because it monitors your sleep and all that. And I like to look at those numbers in the morning. But if you don't have do not disturb on, I get a text at 11 o'clock. That might wake me up. And now all of a sudden I got a text at 11. I'm trying to sleep. Anyway, those are just like two little simple, I thought of those when you said boundaries. I will touch on, and we probably won't, gosh, man, this is another one where we could just talk all day about it. Right. But something else that came up for me is then when you're in a good spot, I love your consistency. And I thought of battle rhythms. So regularly scheduled times when you meet with your team to discuss these types of things so that when it happens the day before that meeting or two, you don't have to stress out about it because there's already a container where you'll be able to kind of put that in. We're not talking about life or death, immediate things that have to happen right now, right? But we are talking about things that seem really big, uncertain, scary, and important. There's a little bit of time there, though. We're not talking about sheer emergency, crisis, chaos. You have a container, and I know that, hey, and tomorrow in 2 days, I know I'm meeting with my leadership team, and we're going to be able to tackle this. So I think that's critical. And then going into that meeting, you've taken care of you've taken care of yourself, you've paused, you've been able to step back a little, and then man, something that has always worked for me is just getting in there and saying, hey, man, we're facing this. I'm not sure what to do. I've never seen this before. What about you all? Who in this room has seen something like this? What are you all thinking about this? Right? It's just acknowledging that it is a big thing, acknowledging that it is uncertain, maybe acknowledging that it's causing stress, right? Depends on you and your team. You know your situation well enough to know if that's appropriate. And then after it's out there, just transparent. Now it's like, what do we know? What are the facts? What have you seen? Who can you call? Those types of questions to help move the team forward in these stressful, uncertain situations.
I love it, Jenks. And I'm with you. We could do this for another 45 minutes. Uh, the putting these rule sets in place, right? I love that we're ending with getting left of it. because now we're not reacting. We're preparing. We are setting ourselves up for success by having a process, having a system, and and boundary setting, and having the right people in your orbit to be able to talk through this stuff with. So why don't you take us home?
Yeah. All right. Well, if you're out there listening, thank you, first of all. Second of all, if this is resonating with you, hopefully you realize you're not alone. Tom and I are just two examples, but these are things like we're thinking about, we're dealing with them, and we don't have the right answer all the time, right? But it is helpful, we found, to talk these things out with each other and with getting in the room with other leaders who get it, who are facing these types of challenges. Maybe not the exact same thing, but these types of very human, leader related challenges every day. And man, being in a room where you can be around other leaders like that who get it and who also, by the way, care about you and your growth, and you care about them and their growth. That's why we built Leadership Ready Room. And so if this is resonating with you, I invite you to reach out to me or Tom. I invite you to go to leadershiprr.com and check it out. We would love to have a conversation with you and see if Leadership Ready Room is the right room for you. And with that, I'll say goodbye, and we'll see you next time on Leadership Ready Room Chats.